Well, being a holiday weekend and the 4th of July tomorrow, and I realized when I went in my closet, I don't have any red, white, and blue. I was going to actually, dress to fit. I should have borrowed your shirt there. But anyway, I'm in green, what can I say? But because I knew Iris was wearing green today, that's why. But that's another story. But anyway, it is the 4th of July weekend, and I thought that I would just share some things appropriate to the holiday that may give us a little different perspective of how we can experience this wonderful holiday, birth of our nation. But before that, I'll share a little 4th of July joke. And there was a Jewish rabbi and a Catholic priest who met each year at Albuquerque's annual 4th of July picnic. They were all old friends, and when they got there, they began their usual banter. The priest says, "Oh, Rabbi, this baked ham is really delicious." And he said, "You really ought to try it. I know it's against your religion, but I can't understand why such a wonderful food should be forbidden. You just haven't lived till you've had Mrs. Warren's baked prize Virginia ham. Tell me, Rabbi, when are you going to break down and try it?" The rabbi looked at the priest with a big grin and said, "At your wedding." There you go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 things today: independence, interdependence, and interdependence. And I was reading over every year. I go through, and I always like to read the Declaration of Independence. And for some reason, it seems I'm going to read the first couple of paragraphs because somewhere we've lost its meaning. And it's a good reminder of where I'm going with this talk. So July 4th, 1776, the birth of our nation. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the law of nature and of nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which will impel them to be to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Wow. Isn't that amazing? So so it looks like, feels like that is happening. We've sort of gotten off track, and it seems like this year more than, at least in my lifetime, really off track, forgetting that that we are all created equal, that we're here to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that we are here to tell the government what we want, not the other way around. But it's just gotten a little flipped, and it's not again about judging or condemning or defending or attacking, but really saying in our hearts, no, this is not what this is about, this Declaration of Independence. And I know that our founding fathers, they, and by no means I'm not here to beat up on any religion. I'm here to honor all paths, which I believe that this statement is. And but so many people somewhere feel that this is really here for Christians. And what's, that this is a Christian statement. Well, I didn't see Christianity listed in here, or any religion. It's really about oneness, and that we're all created equal, endowed by our Creator. So that's what we're here doing at Namaste. I mean, we're here honoring all paths, supporting each other in love, choosing to be the change we want to see in the world, and loving everything we do. It says, like right here, it's about all these decisions will be made that will affect our safety and happiness. Somewhere along the line we've lost that. But I'm faithful and hopeful that we're going to that we are in the movement of great shift right now. And the way we do this, I feel, is interdependence. And interdependence is the mutual reliance between two or more groups in relationships. Interdependence is the degree to which members of the group are mutually dependent on the others. This concept differs from a dependent relationship, where some members are dependent and some are not. In an interdependent relationship, participants may be emotionally, economically, ecologically, and/or morally reliant and responsible to each other. An interdependent relationship can arise between two or more cooperative, autonomous participants, for example, a co-op, and we know all about our co-ops here. And some people advocate freedom or interdependence as the ultimate good. Others do the same with devotion to their family, community, or society. Interdependence can be a common ground between these aspirations. So interdependence, independence is where we, going back to the Declaration of Independence, and that we are coming here because, we fled England because it wasn't working. Well, I don't think it's about fleeing. It's about creating a new model. It's not trying to work with the old model. I believe that it's creating a new one. And I just blanked out on the person who said that. The guy who created the Buckminster Fuller, thank you very much. And so it's not about working with the old model, but creating a new one. So I really feel like we're doing that. And I do believe that the interdependence is the way to go. And it doesn't mean that we're being socialist, okay? It just means that I'm making my decisions now based on the greater good of all. That I'm going to use my resources, not throw everything in a pot and divvy it up. I don't think that's what this is all about. Maybe, maybe not, but quite frankly, I think it's about saying everything that I am, everything that I have, I choose to use for the greater good of everyone. Show me how to use this. And you just become naturally inspired and led. And I'm beginning to, unfortunately, there have been some great disasters recently that have been tragic. But they also bring out the greater good in people. To see the thousands and thousands of people support our brothers and sisters in, millions, I'll say millions, in Orlando, from all over the world. People coming to West Virginia to support. All of a sudden, you think you don't have enough to give or to share, but something like this happens and you realize, you know what, I think I do. I think I've got a little more that I could give here. Well, I believe that we don't have to wait for a catastrophe or a disaster to strike before we decide that it's time to share what we have. And I don't believe if we surrender everything that we have, that Spirit is just going to take it all away. I think it will be directed and led in the greatest degree of love for everyone and everything. Something to think about. But I want to talk mostly about inner dependence, because I believe for this change, creating this new model, it really is about inner dependence. And that's what we really have been nurturing and working on and discussing here on an ongoing basis. And everything we offer is really about living from the inside out rather than the outside in. And this quote from Eckhart Tolle, I think is so wonderful. Many people who are going through the early stages of awakening are no longer certain what their purpose is, What drives the world no longer drives them. Seeing the madness of our civilization so clearly, they feel somewhat alienated from the culture around them. Some feel that they inhabit a no man's land between two worlds. They are no longer run by the ego, yet the arising awareness has not yet become fully integrated into their lives. Inner and outer purpose, in other words, have not merged. I know years ago, Greg Braden wrote a book, Walking Between the Worlds. I believe that that's what this is talking about. You know, we're moving out of this egocentric driven world, knowing that, you know, what our country was founded on, which were beautiful principles, but not really following that path right now so well, and that we do really have the interest of everyone in our hearts, but we don't know how to get there. And so, you know, we're teetering between the worlds. It's like, well, if I go too far this way, then I got to give all this up. But I believe that that's not true. That spirit will always lead us to a greater place if we just allow. You know, I've said it many times before, we're not a huge crowd here, but we're strong in love and strong in spirit. And love is more powerful than any negativity, darkness on this planet. But we have to be willing to stay in that. We have to be willing not to judge, not to defend, you know, totally let go of our story, our past, and say, in this moment, I'm choosing to surrender all that I am and all that I have to the greater good of all. Because in truth, we are each other. You know, we're not separate from each other. We're not separate from each other here. Pretty easy to feel it in this community because there's so much love here. But we're also not separate from the jerks, okay? Or those that we judge, you know, they're part of us. And if, you know, I always say, if something or someone is provoking a charge in you, it's not I always say, I mean, it's a fact. If something's provoking a charge, then it's something for us to take a look at. It's the universe saying, that situation, that person is holding a mirror up to you of something you don't want to look at in yourself. Because if I was completely in my heart, I wouldn't see anything besides love. That's just the truth. The world is just reflecting to me my thoughts about it. If you want to know where your consciousness is, where you are in your spiritual awakening process, look at your life. Are you peaceful? Are you happy? Are things working? And I'm not necessarily, it's not about, do you have the big house, do you have this and that? It's not about the stuff. It's about your relationship to everything in life. And so I got reminded, I'm going to mention a name and you tell me if you know who I'm going to talk about here. Mildred Lisette Norman Ryder. Nobody knows who that is, huh? Okay. Mildred was a spiritual teacher, nonviolence advocate, and self-designated peace pilgrim. Oh. Okay, she walked more than 25,000 miles over 3 decades, spreading her peace message across America. She was born on July 18, 1908, in a small poultry farm in Egg Harbor, New Jersey. Oddly, it was in this period of her life, during the Great Depression, she made 2 important discoveries. The first was making money was easy. The second was making money and spending it foolishly were completely meaningless. She knew that this is not what she was here for, but at the time she didn't know what it was she was here to do. In 1938, after walking all night through the woods praying for guidance to discover her calling, she underwent a great spiritual experience. Increasingly uncomfortable about having so much while others were starving, she walked and asked God to use her. Coming to a moonlit opening in the woods, she described the seminal experience. I felt a complete willingness without any reservations to give my life, to dedicate my life to service. If you can use me for anything, please use me, I prayed to God. Here I am. Take all of me. Use me as you will. I withhold nothing. Then a great peace came over me. I experienced a complete willingness, without reservation whatsoever, to give my life to something beyond myself. So, Peace Pilgrim, as you know, she she gave up everything. She literally walked for years and years and years and didn't take a dime in her pocket, had the clothes on her back, and knew that Spirit would provide her needs. She was just living from that inner dependence. You know, she was an example of what we're all choosing to live in our lives, how we're choosing to live. She had no idea where her next meal was coming from, where she was going to sleep every night, just walked and walked and walked and walked. And I think that, you know, we all don't have to take that path, but it is an interesting story. It's an interesting truth, example that she showed us that, you know, how deep are we willing to go? How much are we willing to trust the process? You know, there's just every day, I mean, I do watch the news, and every day there's something. Gee whiz, I mean, battles here and shootings here and this and that, and the world is in great unrest. And then, you know, the European Union thing, and I mean, people are just everywhere you go. It's like, and then TPP, is it good, is it bad? And so it's just like, whoa, you know, you can get caught up and sucked into that in a minute if you choose to. So the world is in unrest, to say the least. And if any of us are thinking that this world is going to sustain us, if anything out here is going to sustain us, probably not. It's not to say that these things can't be useful and helpful and wonderful, because they are, but it's a new world we're creating. And so everything is falling apart at the seams, I feel, so we can co-create a world in love. Peace Pilgrim is an example of what is potential in all of us. She said, when she was asked the question, how can one's life be improved? Look within for your answers. Your divine nature, your inner light, there lies all the answers. Spend time bringing your life into harmony with divine law. Work on overcoming evil with good, falsehood with truth, hatred with love. Work on establishing a good lifestyle for yourself. Whether or not you're in a family, these things are important. You know, make your livelihood a useful task. Good living habits, get good rest. Inspirational things in your life. Serve as much as you can. You know, all of these are great recipes, is a great recipe for us to live more from love and more from our heart, more from the inner world, co-creating a new pattern. So it's the spiritual life is the real life. She says this, the spiritual life is the real life, all else is an illusion. And I think that, you know, the Course in Miracles speaks often about this world is an illusion, and people say it, and I still have people who want to go to bat with that. It's not an illusion, it's real. How can you say this is an illusion? Well, yes, it is, seems really real, because we've made it real, you know? I mean, look at this podium, this cool computer, and all you people, and this is an illusion. Well, yes, it is. Because we keep reinforcing it with our attachment to it. If we would give this much energy to our spiritual life as we put into trying to fix and manipulate this illusion, the whole game would be changed. It'd be flipped over in an instant. So I think that we need to understand, as she said, the spiritual life is the real life. All else is illusion and deception. And I think we're seeing a lot of deception in the world. We're not seeing things the way that maybe they used to be, because they're not. And so what we can do here is live from the inner love that's within each and every one of us. Some things about Peace Pilgrim that were said about her. To me, she is the epitome of a focused life. I call her the 20th century St. Francis of Assisi. She was the living demonstration of the potential that can be unleashed when one is fully engaged in what they believe is the most important thing in the world. Well, that just, to me, says that the most important thing to her was living a spiritual life. And when we do that, God only knows what we can co-create. I didn't see her as an evangelist, but by her own life and demonstration, she inspired people. You know, we're all the Course in Miracles, there's a lesson. I am among the ministers of God. We are all ministers. Where we are is our ministry. That's the ministry of Alliance of Divine Love is not taking form, creating necessarily a formal ministry. Some do, some don't. The vows are really saying that my ministry is on my back and I'm just going to live from love in all I do. And hers was a universal message of perennial spiritual truths clothed in simple, understandable language. And she was an American saint who transcended all national, religious, or sectarian bonds to communicate love, understanding, and integrity. Her life was her teaching. So I think that that's a great example for, there's been many people who have walked the planet that have lived from love and lived a deep spiritual life. But it's always fun to learn about people that do it and how they did it and what they thought. And, let's start walking, whatever that means to you. Another Eckhart Tolle statement: the power is in you, the answer is in you, and you are the answer to all your searches. You are the goal. You are the answer. It is never outside. And I believe that is, that's the truth we're wakening up to. It's like, I think we almost are tired. We've looked so hard, seek but do not find outside of yourself. We've been working so hard, and it's like, okay, not there, let's go inside. All the answers are there. So I'd like to close, and I found this quite interesting, and it's a declaration. And I'm going to ask you to close your eyes because it's our own declaration of inner dependence. And you can fill in your name. I, Charlotte, a spirit of the universal state of consciousness, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure tranquility, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for myself and others, and for posterity, do ordain and establish this declaration of interdependence. I, Charlotte, am interdependent. I am fully dependent on the source within to provide me fully with a sufficiency of all things necessary to live a passionate, joy-filled life. When I settle my mind down and I release the thoughts that drag me down, I am immersed in the deep, quiet place of fulfillment. I declare that this inner space is a non-failing and all-providing space. I am part of this grand intelligence, and I choose to live my life in accordance with its provisions. I depend on the substance within to care for my every need. The unfailing spiritual activity within me provides goodness and mercy in my relationship with self and others, my financial affairs, in my career, body, mind, and feeling nature. I accept the inner presence as my instant, constant, non-ending abundance of all good things. God is the source, and I am of me is the resource. I am like my Creator, source and resource. Furthermore, I hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal in spirit, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Furthermore, I know myself to be the creator of life, liberty, and happiness in my world, and as an interdependent, I know I am richly blessed by everything, everyone, and every situation, and so it is.
So it is.
So it is. Namaste.